Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. There is no turning back now. In this upcoming review, we are going to be taking a look at another prestige dream piece of mine that unfortunately didn't turn out to be that dreamy in the end, but a little bit more on that later. Now, this absolutely gorgeous museum piece by Elite Creature Collectibles is a reproduction of the Parasaurolophus maquette that was created by a legendary Stan Winston studio for Steven Spielberg's The Lost World Jurassic Park. The maquette was sculpted by Paul Meyas for the film's pre-production period. The maquette size is around 1718 scale. This was one of the very few dinosaurs in the film that weren't built as animatronic versions, as the character only appeared in the film as a digital version during the hunting scene. Nonetheless, the artists at ILM Industrial Light and Magic had a great use of these maquettes, as by scanning the models after the initial cleanup, and they could almost instantly rig the digital puppets that greatly reduced the build time. Now, a life-sized Parasaurolophus carcass was built by Stan Winston Studio that was supposed to be featured in the beginning of the film, an idea that was later abandoned. The carcass is still visible as a set piece in the Tyrannosaurus nests. Now, my obsession about this maquette began when photos of it started appearing in magazines and art books that were about either the making of the films or about the work of Stan Winston Studio. As I mentioned in my previous videos, I love all the work that the studio created for the films, as truly the best artists were behind it, and to this very day it defines how dinosaurs are being portrayed. It was an incredible time in film history and artistry that I fear will never be repeated. And even though I'm clearly partial to the carnivores in the films, when I first saw this maquette, the design, the gorgeous lines, and the stunning sculpting by Paul Meyas made it one of my favorites out of all the maquettes. To me, it's the most beautiful from the artistic point of view. I also forgot to mention that while Paul was responsible for sculpting the maquette, obviously the design came from Mark Crash McCreary, who was back at the time the in-house concept artist for Stan Winston Studio, and whose work inspired an entire generation, including your very own. And can you imagine, back in 2019 I had the good fortune to lay my eyes upon one of these original maquettes at an exhibition that was organized by the Prop Store in BFI IMAX Cinema in central London. I went to the exhibition twice in 2 following days, consequently, because I just loved it so much. I simply couldn't believe its sheer size and the beauty of it. At that point I have already pre-ordered the Para that Chronicle Collectibles announced, and I owned the Pachycephalosaurus that was also pretty big. I was looking forward to get that one, but then, as we know, Chronicle Collectibles went under and the project never got made. I was disappointed, but somewhere deep inside me I knew it was for the best, as the paint applications by Chronicle Collectibles were rarely up to anyone's standards, and I knew that I would have to repaint the piece myself. Nonetheless, I wanted this beauty so much and kept on dreaming about it. Now, we just came a little bit closer to the base here, guys. You can see the base is very prestigious, very lovely, with this like wood theme going on. Very simple, pretty lightweight as well, including these very, very super realistic foliage and the wood on it. The foliage, you see that there's grass looking thing. It's a little bit of a problem, you know. It's gonna make cleaning the piece pretty hard. They sit on its table, but you just don't want to disturb that. And you probably picked up on it that basically the feet is not fitting in the base completely properly. But more on that later. As we learned that since Chronicle Collectibles was under the umbrella of Toynami, the company also responsible for Elite Creature Collectibles as well. And with the bankruptcy, all the assets that Chronicle Collectibles had unproduced went to them. So fans, including me, were hopeful that we may see these never produced items being released at some point in time. And that, fortunately, is exactly what has happened. Okay, let's talk about the piece a little bit more, which is unfortunately not without its flaws. The statue itself comes in a very appealing box that is, after the removal of the plastic straps, very easy to open, as the box has a lid. I'm going to include some photos here. The para also comes with a certificate of authenticity and a laminated replica of the dinosaur catalog that was used in the film by Roland Tembo, the leader of the hunting party of the island. That scales with the dinosaur perfectly, by the way. I personally didn't remove that from the box, as I'm not going to be displaying it with the statue. The piece has a strikingly low edition number of only 99 pieces produced worldwide. Mine is number 70 and is surely going to be a highly sought after collectible in the Jurassic Park community. However, I'm sure you already saw it on the screen that the paint application is quite disappointing, but about that later. Before that, one of the major issues with my statue specifically will be discussed, which was that the pack holes to the base were drilled by a person who had their eyes covered up. I'm just not sure what had happened there. The legs were not even close to line up to the pack holes. But what's most staggering is the fact that after I drilled a hole for the right place on one of the legs, that leg basically doesn't fit in the footprint in the ground. How? I have seen reviews on the statue and other collectors didn't seem to have this problem. Also, I assume that the statues are identical in size, and the base too. My statue doesn't look warped in any way. I just don't really know why the feet doesn't go in the footprint. You probably seen this in one of the previous shots. And now to the paint. To be fair, I suspected that the paint is going to be less than perfect, as it's not an easy paint job to reproduce. The para is quite colorful and organic, and credit is where credit due. Elite Creature Collectibles didn't chicken out and do decals or whatnot, or crude painted dots like Chronicle Collectibles back in the day. It's all airbrushed and deserves respect, but it's just mechanical. The dots are lined up, nothing organic or natural about them, and the tail, that's probably the weakest part. And don't get me wrong, I didn't forget the fact that if Chronicle Collectibles released this, it would have been way worse. But it would be half the price too. And Elite Creature Collectibles, as it says in the name, should provide the elite quality you are paying for. Yeah, it's pretty bland. Certain areas, like on the back, I basically compare them with the prop store Maquette that they exhibited in BFI. There are a couple of photos of it on the internet. That line on the back should be way darker. way more saturated. The red on the neck should be coming down more. Anyway, lots of stuff. Those dots are awful on the neck. It will be repainted. I'm going to be repainting this, and then I'm going to make another video. And now also, guys, before the end of the video, I really would like to add something to this video. I hope you don't mind. I don't mean to offend anyone, but during the time while I was waiting on the piece, the UK got the statue shipped 8 months after other countries for reasons. I watched a few reviews of the Maquette in anticipation here on YouTube, and I gotta say that it's crazy to me that some people complaining that how boring a word that they keep using, the static pose of the statue is. This statue is part of movie history, and I do get it, not everyone has to be a geek about it. People at least should know that this Maquette isn't a collectible in the traditional sense of the word, at least. This sculpture has been created to communicate the design ideas that Stan Winston studio artists had to the director of the film. Some other people I heard complaining also mentioned that they have no idea about the history of the piece, that they just purchased the statue because they thought it looked cool. These attitudes really stun me. Of course people can spend their hard-earned cash on anything they desire, but just shoveling over $1,000 on something that they're unfamiliar with and looks cool, quite frankly riddles me, and also a clear indication of the attitudes and ingredients of the statue community at large these days. It's quite a sobering affair. Anyway, just really wanted to get that out of my system. I hope you don't mind. All in all, I must say I'm very happy with the piece, more than happy, super excited to finally own it, and this release is yet another childhood dream coming true by owning a piece of movie history by legendary Stan Winston Studios. It is, after all these years, still hard to believe we live in a world where things like this can be purchased, and only wish that I could have had a time machine, go back in time and show it to my child self. I would be beside myself. No pun intended. But we also must remain somewhat objective and say this isn't a perfect home run, and Elite Creature Collectibles definitely should do better. Anyway, thank you so much for being here with me, and see you on the next one.